Okay, hi Sam. Hi Sam,
Hi.
welcome to the webinar. Very happy to have you here. Hi everyone, I am Shreya. I am the CEO and co-founder of FlexiBees. And today we have a very, very interesting session for you guys. Managing or designing sales organizations for early and growth stage companies is what we are going to talk about. So let me give a little bit of context. As a early stage business or a growth stage business, have you wondered how you should design your sales organization? How should you structure hierarchies, your teams? What sort of goal setting should you do? What sort of incentive structure should you have? And very importantly, should these change as your organization goes, as your organization grows? Those are some of the some of the challenges or some of the questions that all founders, all entrepreneurs, all sales leaders struggle with. And today we have just the right expert for you. We have today with us Sam. He is a revenue growth coach and the founder of Cusp Services. He comes with a wealth of experience of over 30 years and sales insights, where he's helped companies of every shape and size, set test sales structures, build the right teams, align the right objectives with those teams, and enable them to grow and achieve their revenue goals and beyond. He has worked with enterprises such as Wipro, IBM, and Sun. And as the founder of Cusp Services for the last 5 years, he has enjoyed working with growing and emerging businesses, helping them reach their goals. We're very happy to have you here, Sam, with us, and very excited to hear, everything that you have to say about sales and growing business. And for our listeners, for our audience, this is going to be a 30-minute session. We'll have 20 minutes of conversation between the two of us, and the last 10 minutes can be used for audience questions. We will send the recording and the deck that Sam plans to use,
Hmm.
uh, as an email after the webinar. Um, but do stay tuned. There's a wealth of insight that's set to get unlocked through this conversation.
Shreya,
Welcome.
first of all, thanks for the warm welcome and the introduction. Um, I must also say I'm grateful to you and the FlexiBees team for the opportunity to explore this interesting topic, I would say, with you and also in front of this lovely audience. More importantly, thanks for bringing this topic for this discussion because this is one of the important questions that I keep getting from founders, co-founders, entrepreneurs of all forms, shape and size, whether they are in early stage or they are in ramp up stage or they are really in the growth stage. Questions like, I got my first set of customers, so how do I build a sales team? Should I right away go and hire the sales manager, or should I bring in a VP sales? Can I completely, abdicate my responsibility of, building sales now that I've raised money? And can I put that responsibility on the VP sales head or the director sales head, right? And there are other questions like, should I hire a geography specific person, or we are vertically focused? So should I bring in a person from the vertical background? We are a scale up, we are a growth stage company. So am I right for bringing in a person from an established brand? So the questions are, the plethora of questions are varied, right? So uh, I thought, we will explore this with by thinking about what are the actually the models that
Yeah.
exist in the marketplace today. So for the first 25 years, I've worked for very large corporations and organizations, and for the last 5 years, I've worked with startups and scale ups. So if I look at the popular models that are available, I thought we will put those models together and first of all explore that topic with a little bit of a theory. Now, we don't want to make this conversation to a very academic conversation, but theory is important because without understanding the theory, we don't want to walk into the lab and start experimenting because then things will start blowing up in our face.
Yeah.
So bear with me, audience. There's going to be a bit of a theory, bit of a discussion around what are the models that are popularly available. So Shreya, why don't we just jump in straight away into the discussion? Can you bring up those slides, please?
Sure.
I hope it's visible for the audience. Um, so while there are, like I mentioned, while there are many number of models available, because there's a bit of a time constraint today, we are trying to keep it very sharp and short within the first 20 minutes. I thought I will take up just the top 5 popular sales organization design and the models, and we'll explore not only just the design point but also the pros and cons of each model. Yeah. Like I said, for the next 5 minutes, if we can quickly touch upon these three main questions: what are the models? What are the pros and cons? And does it evolve, or is it cast in
Yeah.
stone? Once I've chosen a particular model, should I just lock it with it, or should I continue to evolve with that model? Right. Um, Now, like what Shreya mentioned, you don't have to take notes or you don't have to copy the slides or take the screenshots. This entire deck is going to be available, mailed across to all the participants who are joining in. And if you continue to stay with us, it's not just 5 models. I'm also promising you a bonus model. Okay.
Wonderful.
That's like an incentive for holding on to the audience because your time is precious. Okay.
You have a
So
great
let's look at the
marketing
first
right
one.
there.
Yeah. You have to sell, right? You have to sell all the time.
Yeah.
So this is a very simple pyramid model. What we're calling is a stratification model. Um, Large accounts on the top, mid-tier accounts in the middle, and volume, low value but high volume kind of accounts at the bottom of the pyramid. So the model is very simple. You assign the most experienced salesperson in your team, or the most experienced person that you're going to recruit. You assign it to the most lucrative accounts, both from a revenue perspective and also from a profitability perspective. And likewise, right? Likewise for the mid-tier accounts, and maybe I won't call it as the inexperienced, but the lower experienced sales team member for the smaller sized account. Now, what are the pros and cons? It's straight away, it's a very simple takeaway. The sales expense, the amount of dollars that you spend on the entire sales organization is almost proportional to the contribution margin that the organization makes, both from a revenue perspective and also from a profit perspective. So it's a straight match to revenues versus cost or profit versus cost, right? And everybody is also very clear about their KRA, right? I'm supposed to go and map these 8 accounts given to me, or these 30 mid-tier accounts, or these 300 SMB accounts. So it's very clear in terms of the KPIs and KRA for the sales team. Of course, there are a few cons, but the important one is, because we are segregating in a pyramid model, there's going to be a large geographic dispersion of these accounts. So not sure whether you're treating all the customers in the same manner in different geographies. And also the proximity could be a problem, because I could be sitting in Bangalore. I might have 8 accounts spread all over the region of India, or all over the region of, let's say, the ASEAN territory, if you're an international, brand. So the geographic proximity to the customer in terms of developing relationships could be a constraint in this model. Okay. So let's move forward to the next one. I mean, this is very popular. Everybody knows it. The hunter farmer model. In fact, many of the clients that I worked with also have tried and experimented with this model. Very simple. Hunter is the one supposed to bring in new logos, new customer accounts into the organization. The farmer gets a set of accounts that the company is already acquired, and he's supposed to grow those accounts either through cross sell, upsell, or deeper penetration into their account. So it's a very simple, as the name suggests, it's a very simple model to understand. But like I said, role clarity. If I'm a hunter, I'm out. Every week, every month, or every quarter. How many new logos have I acquired? How many new purchase orders have I brought to the table? I mean, my role clarity is very simple. And if I'm a farmer, am I growing market share on a monthly, quarterly basis? Am I bringing in more profitable deals from those existing accounts? Am I also building more in-depth relationship in those accounts? So very clear in terms of the advantages. Number one con or the downside is the sales expenses can go up, because you have two separate teams selling the same set of products but going into different territories. So your sales expenses can go up because you also need different types of management So maybe you need even have two types of sales managers to manage these teams, right? Now, Shreya, if you want to throw a question, if I'm going
Yeah.
too fast, or yeah, so just throw
Yeah,
some
I think
questions.
these are very very interesting. My question is, do you have a sense, or have you seen that there are certain sizes of organization or stages of organization that tend to use a particular model? So when you're just
Yes.
starting out, say you don't have a sense of your audience as much, which would be the model to use? When you are slightly bigger, which would be the model to use?
Yeah. So you're preempting the section that I'm going to cover. As soon as I finish the models, I'm going to
Sure.
map it onto the various stages of the organization that they evolved through. But if
Yeah.
I don't answer in the next 3 minutes, bring up this question once again.
Okay, sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, the next one is a very simple geographic model. Like for example, I'm a company which is selling a particular software or a technology for companies doing clinical trials, and I find that 80 to 90% of the companies are concentrated in a particular geography. Like for example, let's say in Hyderabad or the Telangana region, where you find a lot of these clinical research companies there. So does it make sense? So I might be headquartered in Noida, but my salesperson, should he be in Noida, should he be in Mumbai, or Hyderabad is an obvious answer, right? So if you find a particular segment concentrated in a particular geography, right? So geographic model comes into play. The other thing is I might want to have a pan-India footprint because I have a volume sale product, right?
Hmm.
And I want different geographies to have an independent organization to manage that territory because India is a country of countries, right? The Northern Territory doesn't behave the same way as the West, and likewise in South, right? So I've seen many brands and also the companies that I work for, they have tried to install a very independent, decentralized geographic model, right? And try to get market share from those territories, right? Um, Simple. The advantage, it's a low sales cost model because most of the teams are concentrated in the local region. So in terms of the sales overheads, right, are very limited because you're geographically concentrated, and lots of customer contact because it allows you to kind of increase the touch point when you're locally geographically available.
Hmm.
Downside, the other side, because each geographic region requires dedicated resources. So some of the technical resources where you might want to take advantage in terms of having a common denominator, that's not possible because you need to have different geographical teams, right? Moving on, it's on the other end of the spectrum. It's a vertical industry model. Now, I might have some same product, but it might want to have vertically focused sales process, or the customer's buyer journey might vary from vertical industry to industry. So I might want to bring in a person who understands that vertical better, so he or she can speak that language.
Yeah.
So you have a PFSI oriented vertical sales team, or a healthcare, manufacturing, so on and so forth. There are 14 to 15 popular verticals. I've seen organizations have salespeople allocated to focus verticals, right? Improved profitability straight away because since you speak the customer's language, you're able
Hmm.
to do a consultative sale.
Hmm.
So most of the sale underlying is going to be a highly profitable sale. On the other end of the spectrum, it's a very expensive model because the products are the same, but you're having dedicated sales teams and marketing teams for various verticals. So it's a very expensive model. Product overlay model. This is, I have a sales team in the front, but let's say my organization has got specialist products, right,
Hmm.
which requires special product related focus. So it's like the sales team carries the quota overall, but then on overlay to that sales team, you have products team, which carry product specific quota, which are supposed to collaborate closely with the sales team to improve and achieve revenue targets for each and every product line, right? Um, Accountability of each product is very clear because it's a what I call as the quota is being carried by two teams, right? Not only the sales team, but the product team is also carrying that quota. So very clear accountability, And hopefully there's also going to be a tighter alignment between the sales team and the product sales team, right? But obvious disadvantage is multiple people calling on the customer, right? So the sales guy will come and make the pitch, and maybe
Mm.
1 week later, the product guy is also coming to the same customer and then making that pitch, right? So the customer is
Yeah.
going to get confused in terms of, now, who do I listen to and who do I give my purchase order to? So there's a bit of a alignment issue. Now, I promised a bonus, right? Now, this is what I call as a dreaded model, where entrepreneurs or founders, co-founders who are not able to bet on a particular model, they just resort to this hybrid model.
Mm.
So in the north, it might be a geography team. In the south, might be a product team, right? And the west could be a combination of both, right? So they said, I'm going to try it out because it's too difficult for me to take a bet. And it also
Mm.
it could also be part of the company's strategy for different markets trying out different things.
Mm.
But the clear disadvantage is the effectiveness always comes into question, because
Yeah.
let's say you're calling the teams for a quarterly business review. Now, how do you measure the team?
Mm.
So are you going to conduct a separate review for the North team, which is just geography, we're selling everything, and the West team could be a product focused team? So it creates a bit of a confusion within the organization to say, how do I measure sales performance or revenue performance, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to change gears. Of course, it's an obvious answer to this. Um, a business design or a sales organization design that works for you, Shreya, may not work for me. And the other aspect is also true. What works for both of us today may not
Mm.
work tomorrow morning, because the conditions are evolving and the competition is, trying to change the game, right?
Mm.
And also, one size doesn't fit all, right?
Yeah.
You can't say, I'm a fintech company, so I'm going to do just vertical sales. It won't work, right?
Mm.
So one size doesn't fit all. And the metrics of measurement also varies from context to context.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're going to ship these slides across. Now that actually, finishes the model discussion. But based on what you said, in fact, I'm going to take that question that, can we remove the slides? Maybe we'll come
Sure.
back into program. Or should I? Okay. Now, you asked me that question saying, how do we take this to the road? Okay, this is good information. This is theory. But how do I, if I'm an entrepreneur, if I've just raised funding, right? Now, which model do I take to the road? Or I've done seed fund, I've got my first set of customers, I'm getting into next stop is like a Series A. Now, how do I take all of this to the road? How do I take this to the market? Now, that's where the context of the growth of the company or the evolution of the company comes into play. In fact, I will narrate it with a live example of a company that I was involved with, right? In terms of what kind of models we took up for all the three stages. So there are three stages that a company goes through, Shreya, just for simplicity's sake. The initiation stage, which I call as the very early stage of a company, and the transition stage, and the third is what I call as the growth stage, right? Now, in the initiation stage or the initial stage, right, the company that I was working with, um, my principle has always been, in the initial stage, everyone sells, right? So many times I've seen the founders coming back to the table saying, Sam, I suck at sales, I don't sell. Then I will ask the question saying, okay, uh, uh, how did you do? You were working for a very large organization. Did you not get your concurrence from your wife to give up a large paying, job and start a company on your own? You say, yeah, I mean, I was able to convince her. So you're a good salesperson. And then second is, are you raising angel funding? You said, yeah. So how are you raising angel funding? So I go and pitch. So if you're able to raise angel funding on a concept where you've not even started the company and you're getting angel funding, that means you must be a damn good salesperson,
Damn good
right?
salesperson.
Right. So everybody sells. Like for example, we had a bunch of engineers in that company that I was working with. they were talking to their counterparts on the customer side, because engineers do demo to engineers on the other side, right? So it's a birds of the same feather kind of a concept. And the CEO of this company was selling to managing director of the company. So they were entrepreneurs on both sides. So they were talking to each other, right? And at that point in time, it was all about getting into your network, selling yourself, gaining your credibility, and in exchange, you're asking the initial set of customers to commit into the product concept. That's where your the much bandied terminology of product market fit happens.
Hmm.
But at that point in time, I won't recommend the founders, co-founders to bring in a head of sales or outsource the sales activity to an employee,
Yeah.
right? Because this is where the founder led sales has to be very strong, right? Now this company went through that cycle. They got their first 15, 20 customers, right? And they raised some angel funding, and that's when I call they went into a transition stage. Now at this point in time, what we did, instead of, he was very keen to bring on head of sales. So one of the
Hmm.
things that we said was, Mr. CEO, you will continue to be the head of sales, but let's expand the bandwidth for you, right?
Hmm.
So we did two things. One, we brought in an account manager, because for the large accounts where he was the salesperson himself, he wanted additional bandwidth. So we brought in an experienced salesperson as an account manager.
Hmm.
And then we brought in a 1.5 year old inside salesperson. So this became like a sales pod.
Right.
So this is where the CEO took that stratification model to some extent.
Hmm.
So to the
Yeah.
large set of accounts, large opportunities, he was the account manager himself. And we also followed the 80-20 model. So on those
Hmm.
accounts where he was 80%, the experienced account manager was covering that account 20%. So looking over the shoulder.
Hmm. Ah.
In the mid-tier accounts, stratification, I'm referring to that pyramid model. In the mid-tier accounts, the account manager was 80%. The 1.5 year old guy was 20%.
Hmm.
And in the SMB accounts, it was the reverse ratio. 80% was the 2 year old guy,
Hmm.
80%. And the 20%, the account manager whose experience was
Hmm.
supporting that person to convert deals.
Ah.
So
Okay.
this was the route that we took. We called it as a sales pod model, right?
Hmm.
And this is the stage where they went from 1 crores to 5 crores. So it was almost like a 500,000 kind of a track, right?
Right.
And that's
Right.
when they did pre-series A, and that's when they were set up for growth, Shreya.
Right.
Around the time, uh, we recruited head of sales. We didn't call him as a VP of sales because we wanted that person to come inside the organization and earn his stars and stripes, right?
Hmm.
At that point in time, there was also a bit of a geography model. So I'm referring to the geography model again,
Hmm.
right? There was a bit of a stratification model during the second phase. In the third phase, they found that there were a lot of inquiries coming in from Middle East.
Ah.
And you know the dynamics of Middle East. I mean, this is applicable not only for Middle East, it's applicable for Singapore, or it could even be
Yeah.
applicable for North India. Like, you want to penetrate North India or Middle
Hmm.
East. So it was a combination model that they opened up a Middle East office. They had a pre-sales and a salesperson there. The head of sales was in Bangalore, right? And this model continued. The CEO continued to be the large accounts person, and the head of sales started to grow the organization,
Right.
setting KPIs, KRAs, etc., etc. And they went from 1 million to 4.5 million, and they went through a decent M&A, and they made
Hmm.
um, good amount of money, right? So I'm just giving an example in terms of, like I said, there's nothing like a prescribed model. But if you understand the theory behind the model, and if you understand the context of the situation that you are in, you can beg, borrow, steal, and make your own concoction, and then
Yeah.
see what can be relevant at that particular point in time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. These are principles that you can use to figure out what works for your business.
Absolutely. And it varies from stage to stage.
Yeah. And it could vary also from industry to industry. There are some, or the
Absolutely.
products that you're selling. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Um, yeah, I mean, I am thinking about uh, our sales structure at this point in time with FlexiBees. And I could resonate with a lot of what you said. When we were very young, for us, it was us who were selling. And I absolutely agree. I mean, in fact, even just today, in fact, I heard somebody say that everybody is always selling. It's not just entrepreneurs. Even in life, you are always, there is an exchange of ideas. You're trying to convince somebody else of an idea that you have or you feel close to, and that essentially is sales. So, completely resonate with the fact that founders sell, get the first few clients. For us, at this stage, I think we are in the phase of, late stage transition. So, second phase and somewhat a mature stage in that particular phase. We actually we don't have a geographic model at all. So for us, the whole world is our oyster. Everything is, remote, but we do have a stratification model in a way, where we have different teams to do different things. We have different teams for different jobs. The funnel itself provides opportunities for different people of different skill sets to operate on it. So we have a lead qualification team, we have a lead sales team. We get involved as founders in some cases. So yeah, then that's been working well for us. And we
And
don't have.
we were the beneficiary of you being the founder-led sales model that you implemented. So in a couple of places, I must say, not because I am on a FlexiBees workshop webinar here, we were beneficiaries. A couple of my clients were beneficiaries. So in one place, I think did we place a content writer? Yeah, I think we placed a content writer with one of the clients. And another organization, my client, I think we were able to place an experienced salesperson with the inside sales specialization, especially in the last 18 months. The requirement for inside sales specialists have gone up, right? So
Yeah.
FlexiBees was able to, fulfill that requirement. And of course, I will credit to the founder-led sales model that you followed.
Uh, Thanks so much. I mean, thanks so much for having that faith in us. And I would credit my team member Sonal,
Absolutely.
who you were working with. I think the two of
Absolutely.
you really got to understand each other well during that phase. And of course, we founders are there at the back end, and there are certain functions that we get more involved in. So it's a little bit of a hybrid model approach over there.
Model. It is a hybrid model, I must say. Yeah.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
certain functions do need some intervention or support, but yeah, a lot of it is credit to the team.
What else? One thing I wanted to touch upon is about how much time we have. We are on top of the hour.
Yeah,
Should
we
we?
have. I think
Any
we can.
questions have come up so far?
No, there are no questions at this point. So I think we can go on for another 5 to 7 minutes. There
Okay,
are a couple of other questions that I would be very interested in hearing your view on. Then after that,
okay,
we can open it for questions.
sure.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the very important parts of setting a sales structure is incentive design. How should incentives be designed?
Yeah,
We would love to hear your view on it.
yeah.
It's 17 hours.
Um, it's a pet peeve topic for me because many times I will start to engage a client, and then we will get to know the sales team, and then you start to spend some time with them. Um, so then you figure that they're not even on an incentive plan. I mean, it's okay because suppose you're an organization in the early stage of trying to find the product market fit. Now you don't want to immediately put the burden of the variable pay on the sales team. So if that's by design, then it's okay, right? Because sales by function is also based on the money that they can make, right? I mean, that's the only function where you can actually make more money than your agreed salary, because there's a variable pay on your 30% or 40%, whatever the variable component is, right?
Yeah,
So I think I would definitely encourage all listeners to, if you all believe that the front line brings in the bottom line for the organization, I would encourage the founders, co-founders, the entrepreneurs to spend some time thinking through and designing the incentive structure. Now, uh, one is the incentive structure, but it's also important to kind of explain that incentive structure to the sales team, because many times I've heard the sales guy saying, yes, I'm getting variable pay, I'm getting my incentives, but my boss decides. I don't know how it is calculated. At the end of the quarter, I get an incentive component, but I don't know how it has been calculated. Now, that's not a great situation to be in, right? So
Yeah.
that's where I would recommend that you keep the number of KRAs or KPIs against which the variable pay is being paid out very simple. In fact, I would even prescribe a number, not more than 2 or 3. Number one. And number two, I've also seen people saying, okay, if you meet your 100%, you make your 30% variable or 40% variable. Now, that's a kind of a binary game, right? Because you
Yeah.
get to know by the end of the quarter. So I would
Yeah.
also recommend, I've seen as a best practice by most of the clients that I work with, where they've implemented some of these successful incentive plan, is to have a mix of both lagging indicator and a leading indicator. Now, let me explain. The lagging indicator is revenue.
Yeah.
The lagging indicator is the number of POs that you brought in by the end of the quarter. But the leading indicators are, if you want to promote a particular behavior, like for example, as part of the sales process that you have, demo is a very critical step for you to go down to the bottom of the funnel, right? I would
Yeah.
encourage, keep the number of demos per month, right, as part of the leading indicator, because then you're promoting that behavior. Or number
Yeah.
of proposals, right? If that's one of the leading indicators, so promote that behavior and put some percentage of weightage on that KPI or KRA.
Right.
Okay. Second point, the very important point that I want to highlight is, the minute you say incentives, everybody decides it's only money, right? Now, for the sales guy, apart from money, it could be title, it could be progression of career. Now, quickly, 30 seconds. One of the organizations that I used to work for, I'm talking about a corporate setup. The when we came out of the organization, we realized what he did, but he did a fantastic thing. He used to have a team. Now, he used to call us the advisory team for him. Okay. Now, it's a very exclusive team. It's a very informal kind of a setup, right? Nothing on paper. But this is an exclusive team that used to work with them on critical discussion. Now, later we realized, though we were called as the advisory team, he never took any of our advice. He did his own thing. But to the external part of the organization, many of them wanted to get inside that A team, right? So he used to walk up to some of these upcomers. He knows who the upcomers are, right? So the boss used to walk up to that person and say, I'm giving you this project. I'm going to watch you closely on it. Don't let me down. Shreya, you're looking a little frozen. Shreya, able to hear me?
Yeah. I think there was a
I
slight
think your screen
network.
froze for a while.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you hear
Yeah.
me? What the last part?
I heard till the time that you used to walk up to the upcoming
The
professionals.
upcomers in the organization and say, I'm going to give you this project, right? I'm going to watch you closely. Don't let me down. Now, look at what it can do to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the best part is, if he finishes that project very well, right? There used to be public appreciation in a coffee talk and things like that. So title, public appreciation, progression in the career map, all these are part of the incentive structure, right? And finally, what I call as vitamin M, very important for the sales guy, which is motivation. Because day in day out he's getting badgered in the marketplace, so he needs motivation. He needs that vitamin M. Of
He or
course, the
she.
other M is money. Yeah, he or she, of course.
Yes.
So
This
those
is
are few thoughts I
invaluable.
thought I will share on incentives. Yeah.
This is invaluable. Of the two things that you said, my of course, takeaway from the first part there are many takeaways, but the thing that what really stuck with me is when you spoke of incentives in the parlance of behavior of encouraging certain behaviors, and I think that's so important for founders or sales leaders to understand that you incentivize for the behavior that you want to encourage and the behavior that you want to
Absolutely.
see. Yeah, that's so fundamental. And I absolutely love the second point you made. I think that's a game changer to look at incentives as a wider, broader set of things that you could reward the team with. Brilliant.
Rewards and recognition. Um, Most underused, I would say, weaponry in the sales organizations.
Brilliant.
Rewards and
Absolutely.
recognitions.
Absolutely. Great. So I think we can stop over here for audience questions. We have a question from Ashwin Desai. He asks, "Is the field sales role becoming insignificant as central sales team model is becoming more pronounced?"
Yeah. And I understand where Ashwin's question is coming from, especially in the post-COVID world, where it's not just the physical constraint of being unable to travel or unable to go into a customer. I mean, that was a physical constraint that we all had last year, right?
Yeah.
Or rather, the 2 years ago, right? But what has happened in the last year is that I think the customer's buyer behavior has also changed, right? I think earlier the customer expected, like example, the top of the funnel activity, right, in terms of reach out, sharing a collateral, making a pitch can be done remotely, but the customer expected to meet up with you, especially
Mm,
when you're tabling the proposal or especially when you're negotiating the terms and conditions of the contract, and when it comes to accepting the PO on either sides, right? Now, in the last year, we have seen that even the customer's buyer behavior has become digital,
mm,
right?
yeah.
Personally, in fact, I've closed contracts. In fact, I've delivered contracts, and I'm telling you here in record, without meeting any of them.
Ah,
The entire cycle from from the cradle to the grave of the project, right? From the time I prospected, converted, delivered, documented, and handed over the project back to the CEO, right? It was a go-to-market project which lasted for like 8 months. Two of us collaborated with that client, and the other person
mm,
came in from Mumbai. I was in Bangalore. The client was in Bangalore. So the entire project was delivered, cradle to grave, right, without meeting anyone.
wonderful.
Now, can we completely conclude that the field sales organization has become insignificant or they will not be relevant anymore? I won't agree to that, right? I think it's going to be, we need to be very careful in terms of waiting and watching how the market changes. Because as on date, what is relevant today may be completely relevant tomorrow morning because the markets are evolving on a daily basis. So, what I would recommend specifically to Ashwin is watch the market, watch the dynamics, and finally check with the customer.
Mm.
Check with the
Yeah,
customer in terms of what he prefers.
yeah. Yeah, and a very important point that you made is it's all customer led. I mean, sales is at the end of the day about the customer and
Correct.
the touch points that they are comfortable with or present at. So that's
Correct.
what we got to follow.
Now, I talked about a full project delivered online. Now, starting April, hopefully Omicron is behind us. Hopefully the things are dying down. Will I be able to repeat? Fingers crossed, yes. But will I be able to repeat that same 8 months again going forward in April? I am not very sure.
Mm.
The same project comes up. Maybe the CEO will insist that I meet up with them at least once in a month with the entire team, right?
Yeah,
Now, you need to keep your eyes and ears open for that kind of a feedback loop to come from the customer side, um, and
yeah,
implement that model. And like I said, bottom line is, I don't think we can quickly conclude that field sales organization has become irrelevant or become insignificant. I hope I've answered that question.
yeah. I think you have, but we would love to hear from Ashwin if you have a follow up thought or a question. And yeah, definitely feel free to write to us, all of you who are listening. If you have any other questions, we will be doing, and Sam willing, we will be doing a series on sales, because there are so many things that one can talk about. There are so many things to learn for entrepreneurs such as us. And you can write to us, in fact, with what you would like us to cover, what you would like us to
Yeah.
do in any of our future webinars on, and we would love to do this. Sam,
Yeah.
parting thoughts. Uh, what would you say to entrepreneurs who are listening now or later about their organization design for sales?
Okay. Now, I'll never miss an opportunity to quote Seth Godin, my virtual guru. Now, he's an oracle of Gyan and Gyan and Gyan. I mean, everything he says becomes a quote unquote, right? Quotable quote. So one thing I would definitely like to share with the entrepreneurs who are listening in is, um, knowing what to do is very, very different from actually doing it, right? Today, what I've learned from the people that I work with, Shreya, the people that you have come across, and also with what we have read, what we've heard, and also we also learned from entrepreneurs that we have worked closely with. Today, I think what we have shared is a combination of all of that, right? But I think there is no better learning than picking up some of these aspects that we've shared. There's no better learning than taking some of these aspects and implementing it yourself and seeing how that works for you in your context, in your organization. And I also want to say, if I were to share my own quote, um, when I go to sleep, many of these things would have changed, right? So, how do we wake up tomorrow morning and then suit up and boot up and get ready for the new learnings? Is what I guess is the entrepreneur's journey. And I think that's what we all have signed up for.
Absolutely. There's no better way to capture the entrepreneur's motivation here is to learn.
Absolutely.
Keep learning.
Keeps us on the edge.
Yes, yeah, on the cutting edge of life. Great, that's a life hack. It's a life lesson, Sam. Not just something for sales organizations or for entrepreneurs. Is something that everybody could do with, to take each day as a set of new learnings, an opportunity to grow. So thanks very much for that. Um, and thank you for coming and doing this session with us. I mean, as personally, let me talk about myself. I'm very passionate about the startup ecosystem. I love to do these kinds of sessions and webinars because there is so much that startups can learn, and they can do better, and build their businesses, make the world a better place through these through this knowledge share. So thank you so much for enabling us to take so much wealth that you have to these startups, and we hope that we can continue this in the form of a series. Uh,
Thank you, Shreya. Thank you, FlexiBees, for creating this platform for me to come and share some of the learnings that I've had in my journey. Happy to have done that, and happy to have spent this last 45 minutes chatting with you, Shreya. And thanks for those thought-provoking questions.
Thank you. And thanks, audience. Please write to us if you have any questions. I will be sharing them with Sam. And if you have any ideas for next sessions that we could do, we would love to hear. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.